Good evening, folks. It's time for some more 40k lore. I hope you are having a splendid day and that things are going well in the best time of the Christmas period for me, time between Christmas and New Year. It is a lovely time of the year where all of the pressures of Christmas are gone and you can say goodbye to your family and you can get on with your life. And am I miserable? Am I really miserable? Because, like, the best part of Christmas Day for me is when everybody's gone home and it's after dinner and I can chill out and do what I want to do for the rest of the day. I don't know why. I love having holidays from people. I love seeing people, but then I love the feeling of I've seen them now. I've had my allotment of people. I can now be on my own without feeling guilty. Am I weird? I don't know. Anyway, love you all. Hope you're doing really, really, really well. If you like what I do, the subscribe button is down below. Please click that. And if you really like me, then click the notification bell. That is the real subscribe button. If you don't click that, you'll never know that I'm here or that I'm doing anything or that I exist. And I miss you when you're not here. If you really like what I do, then you want to buy me a pint over New Year, then the Patreon is down below. I'm not very good at e-begging, but there we are. Here we go. Here is some more lore from Warhammer 40,000, and here's the word bearers today. The reason why I moved the word bearers up, they were scheduled for a few weeks from now. It was going to be Imperial Fists or Tau at the end of this week. Instead, I'm going to do Imperial Fists and Tau next week. So it'll be Tuesday, Thursday, Imperial Fists on Tuesday, Tau on Thursday. This week we're going to be doing word bearers because we've had a lot of people messaging me asking me to do word bearers, and if that's what you want and that's what the patrons want, I've had a fair few, or is it now 4 messages requesting the word bearers from Patreon now. Hey, if you're giving me money on Patreon and you want something, I'm going to do it. There you go. Let's do it. So, let us get started with the word bearers. Without light, there can be no shadow. I don't think any legion gets this point so well and so down as the word bearers. In a strange way, in our last video, we tried to strip away the simplistic evilness of the Night Lords to give them more nuance. This video may be the inverse of that completely. If anything, the word bearers try to be too complicated in their motivations and needs, in that they get involved in metaphysical business that really, let's be honest, 40k should have no part in. 40k does and should exist in a nice middle ground. Not overly complicated commentaries on the human mind, or simplistic memes for lol cows to foam at the mouth over. It should be a happy medium of those in between. Word bearers are, however, the main instigators of the 41st millennium, and in this video, we will look at what makes them tick, what makes them stick, and what I do to change them if I ever got the chance to get around to it. So, the good first, as we always start with the good. Give you the good news first. The word bearers are good guys, as all bad guys should be. The word bearers are good guys, probably the best legion in terms of doing their job. Are they the fastest legion to conquer new places? No. If you were somebody living in the galaxy, however, and you could pick to have any legion come and conquer your world, you would likely choose the word bearers or the salamanders. Unlike the salamanders, however, the word bearers can actually fight, and they do so with a zeal and a faith that is quite frankly unmatched. They are protectors of the highest order, obsessed with keeping those they care about safe and ensuring the Emperor's word is brought to all in the galaxy. This is what makes them the most beautifully ironic legion in the setting. The word bearers are a sign of things to come in the Imperium, and what is more, they're right. Lorgar is right. At the end, he is right in the way that the warp works, the things that are out there, unseen, and what will eventually hold the Imperium his father wants to make together. He's right. It's faith. That the Imperium itself is a thought process of Lorgar. He is the Primarch that receives the greatest vindication throughout the modern setting, and for that reason, he is also the traitor Primarch that we see the least in the modern Imperium, aside from somebody like Perturabo. Those two Primarchs, Lorgar and Perturabo, won with a capital W. They achieved and got everything they worked towards, and in doing so, no longer have any real stakes in the current 40k setting. In a world in which we want to see the greatest heroes return, however, in 10th edition and beyond, is this really the ending for them that we want? Nobody in this setting should have their cake and eat it. Another main strength of the Wordbearers is the fact that they are a legion that performs their role rather too well. They are the Imperial heralds before the arrival of Lorgar, bringing the Imperial truth to worlds and peoples with a zeal that can only be described as fanatic and preachy. Even the chaplains they use and the chapters they have within their forces are eventually adopted by the rest of the Astartes after the Horus Heresy. Even the Lectitio Divinatus, penned by Lorgar, becomes the central creed of the Imperium when he is gone. Quite how nobody works out that this is penned by Lorgar, an arch-traitor, is beyond me, to be honest. But it still means that the foundation for what the Astartes are, and the Imperium becomes, is founded by two people, Lorgar and Rabute Guilliman. Yes, this is what makes the iconic scene in the first Heretic book so needed and wild. They are two sides of the same coin, eerily similar in that their main strengths are not on the battlefield, but in ruling. Guilliman rules land and empires, but Lorgar rules the soul and the conscience. One is a nice version of Julius Caesar in space. The other is Plato and Aristotle if they were both obsessed with constantly needing to find and follow something greater than themselves. That's the true tragedy of Lorgar. If you like Lorgar and you like the Wordbearers, please go and watch the Cyberpunk Edge Runners anime, because the lead character of that anime is Lorgar. I'm not kidding. Go and look at David Martinez and you tell me if that's not Lorgar. The way he acts, the way he speaks, how he looks after people, how he wants to follow other people's dreams. He wants to be there with other people. He wants to make sure that they get to live their dreams. That's exactly who Lorgar is. Lorgar is weirdly the most selfless Primarch in the setting. And I count people like Guilliman in that as well, and Dawn. No, Lorgar is the most selfless one. He wants everybody else to live their dreams. He wants everybody else to be okay. And he thinks the best way to do that is to make sure everybody's following the Imperial truth and worshipping the Emperor as a god. Because he thinks that's the thing that's going to keep the Imperium together as it grows. And you know what? He's right! He's right! That's the true irony on the beauty of the Wordbearers. He's completely right. But he's only right in the setting that is of his own making. There's another tragedy, right? I mean, is he really correct, or is he just correct because he made the setting and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy? We don't know, but that's the beauty of the Wordbearers, is their tragic irony. That's when 40K's at its strongest for me. As a legion at their core, the Wordbearers are beautiful in their aesthetic, their needs, and eventual irony. They are one of the pillars that holds up the entire setting. Whilst the Black Legion, Imperium, and Xenos play in the sand pit, the Wordbearers are the sand pit. They built the sand pit, they filled it with sand, and they now sit apart from it, already bored, and looking for other things to build and create. We also hear that Lorgar is more like the Emperor than almost any other in two ways. Right? He's the one that's more like he's the Primarch that's the most like the Emperor in two ways. The first is his mind and passion for his cause. Right? He believes he's right and he believes in everything and he's going to go out and do it. The other is in his looks. Apparently, Lorgar is literally the Emperor with a shaved head. And whilst all Primarchs are his sons, Lorgar literally looks like he could be the son of the Emperor if he was ever to have a child with a mortal woman. We will get into that idea a bit later on. So on to the bad. And there isn't very much here. There's not too much here. But there is some stuff. So to the bad stuff. Well, the Wordbearers do not have many bad issues aside from their constant need to be everyone's bitch. There is a reason the Astral Blades in my lore never fight them. The Wordbearers get an absolute kicking throughout the setting as they are the main instigators of all the bad nature of the 40K setting going forwards. They are the architects of this nightmare we are all living in, and so writers just love bringing them down to earth in more and more over-the-top ways. They also have a real tendency to fall into the stupid evil trap that the Night Lords often do. They act in ways that are ridiculous and counterproductive because they are the bad guys and need to seem bad when compared to the Imperium that is also a very, very, very dark shade of grey already. This is more of a slam against the setting overall than the Wordbearers, but decisions that fly against them happen all the time out of sheer pettiness. So the Lorgars of this world, the Wordbearers, they do things out of sheer pettiness that go against their overall goals. Like trying to replace Horus, by the way, come on. The greatest character of the Wordbearers is Argyll Tal, right? And he is unceremoniously killed off in the most infuriating way by Erebus because he is holding Kharn back from his true potential somehow. How? Why? By the way, Kharn gets annihilated by Sigismund in the Siege of Terra anyway, so what purpose does Argyll Tal's death serve aside from reminding the reader that Erebus is a douche and you should hate him? I think the writing quality of Warhammer sometimes is on par with a semi-decent wrestling card. I bring up wrestling a lot, and that's because the writing of Warhammer is of a similar standard, to be honest with you. In wrestling, we have a thing known as heat, which means that the audience loves to hate a certain character, so that character has heat. They really want to see them get smashed, and also love watching them perform as bad guys. That's the ideal for any 40k villain too. We should love seeing them get smashed, but we should also celebrate when they get shit right, when they get shit done. Because they're one of the main guys, they're one of the main people, the instigators of this entire setting. We also have something called go away heat, which means the audience actively dislikes even watching a bad guy and eye rolls whenever they are on screen. The Wordbearers in the Horus Heresy developed this trait after the first Heretic's bombastic first 3 quarters of the book. They are stripped of anything that makes them interesting and are turned into mustache-twirling villains with next to no nuance. I honestly believe we lost Argyll Tal not because it was his time to go in the setting, but because he had depth and nuance, and the Wordbearers are simply neither of those two things in the wider setting going forwards. They could be though. And that's where we get to, what would I change? So, I'm going to get this out the way pretty much straight away. Controversy first. Controversy first. In my rewrite, the Emperor only has 19 cloned sons. Why? Because his 20th Primarch, or the first, if you want to go in that way, was a natural-born son he fathered with Astarte, the surrogate mother of the other Primarchs. Lorgar is the Emperor's natural son. This is the reason behind his close proximity in looks and attitude to the Emperor, and when the other Primarchs are whisked away by chaos, Lorgar is not. He's a teenager at this point, because he's older than the other Primarchs, of course, and living with the Emperor. He becomes the voice of the Emperor, his right hand, where Malkador is his left hand. When a lord needs to be talked down, when someone needs to be brought into the fold or shouted down, Lorgar is the one who is sent. This means the world of Colchis, where many of the Wordbearers will eventually come from, develops independently of Lorgar into a world of conscious religious war and strife. Think the Crusades, but they never end. The Wordbearers in this setting are never called the Imperial Heralds. Lorgar is with them from the very beginning. He sees Colchis, however, a world full of potential, and takes it as his personal fief, naming it as the first world to be named as a Legion homeworld officially, right? So, the Dark Angels are still the first Legion, because they're the first Space Marines made, they're the first Space Marines created, but the first Legion to be melded together to their Primarch are the Wordbearers. Because Lorgar is never found, he was always there. Alright. From here, the heresy plays out much as it does in real life, with Lorgar coming to believe in his growing arrogance that the Emperor is a god, and by extension, he is the only true son of God, unlike the other Primarchs who are all that grown and made and cloned, right? We also established that Lorgar, beneath the surface, is easily at a sanguineous tier level of combatant, as he is the shadow of the Emperor, but he is a pure son of the Emperor, right? So he can go toe-to-toe with Sanguinius. That's the first big change I'm making, right? He has the power to, not physically, but mentally, to go toe-to-toe with him, to rend him apart at the atomical level if he really, really, really wanted to. He's only the size of an Astartes, but possesses psychic might that rivals Magnus and the sheer persuasion power of his father. In essence, he is the perfect diplomat wizard and the perfect person to start the Horus heresy. He is the guy who brings people over to Horus's side because he has the persuasion power of his father, right? He is the guy who corrals 40K'S, Angron, Mortarion, Magnus, all of these characters who don't work well together. He is the glue that holds the traitor cause together when it happens. When Horus finally casts him aside, because Lorgar says, well, hang on a minute, if I'm doing all of this, why don't I just take over, right? When Horus finds that out and casts him aside, that's when the Horus heresy truly fails. That's what I would say. That it only fails because Lorgar isn't there. He's the glue. And the only reason why the Chaos Gods don't get behind Lorgar is because they have a better option as a king that they can manipulate in Horus. They know they can't manipulate Lorgar because he's essentially the Emperor. Lorgar's doing it because he believes in the gods. Of course, yeah, he believes in the gods. But they know they won't hold him forever because he's a man of conscience, a man who desires truth. And the Chaos Gods know one thing in particular. They're not really gods. They're cancers in the war. Very powerful cancers, and cancers that could end the entire galaxy, true, but they're not gods. They're not omnipotent. They don't know everything, just like the Emperor doesn't. Lorgar is looking for something that doesn't exist, and the Chaos Gods are just playing him for time, because they know one day, if they put all their power behind him, he'll turn on them, and what's more, he'll fucking win, because he has the ability to be just as powerful as the Emperor. So, Lorgar instigates the Horus heresy after Monarchia. That still happens. After the casting down of all of his ideals by the Emperor. Because obviously, the Emperor doesn't want to be worshipped as a god in this setting right now. Eventually, he finds the Chaos Gods, just like he does in the real setting, and falls into their sway. The Word-Bearers from here act in the same way they do in the real setting, but Lorgar actively gets a Primarch kill. Aha, which one's it going to be, right? He actively gets a Primarch kill. I bet you don't know which one it's going to be. I'll give you a few seconds. Go ahead, put it in the chat, the live chat. What Primarch do you think Lorgar's gonna do away with? I'll give you 5 seconds. Maybe they'll put an ad here. So, Lorgar actively gets a Primarch kill when he kills, drumroll, Corvus Corax. A lot of you sitting back going, what? Corvus? Corax? Why? Okay, hear me out. Yep, you heard me correctly. He sees Corvus as an old slave, is a prime candidate for his demagoguery, and I would have Corvus be his best friend in this setting. Why? Because Corvus sees the true nature of people. Remember when I talked about him before? Corvus sees the true nature, that's his power. He sees the true nature of people underneath. And he sees that Lorgar is like the Emperor if the Emperor is more human. And he likes that. He gravitates towards him and the two become the best of friends. Lorgar is attracted to the overlooked and the spurned. He's the champion of the little guy. The ones who see people's true nature, right? Corvus is exactly that person. So the two form an indelible bond. The tragedy is that Lorgar would use Corvus as sort of his moral compass, because he knows Corvus can see his true self, right? And if he ever falls too far, his best friend would tell him and pull him back from the brink. When Corvus finally does say he's gone too far, though, Lorgar is too far gone in his arrogance to listen, and he ends up killing his former best friend in battle during the Horus Heresy. That's a true tragedy, right? Corvus isn't killed by another Primarch of his level, he's killed by a Primarch who's literally the closest to the Emperor's level. And I would even do it in an ambushy way, like out of nowhere, he snaps and kills him, right? That's how I would do it. It would sort of work like, have you ever seen The Watchmen when Rorschach is killed by Dr. Manhattan, right? He forces Manhattan to kill him in that way. Yeah, I would do it in the same way. So he literally atomizes him from existence. Just says, okay, you're done, and atomizes him. Because Corvus is forcing him to go through him. He said, you're not going to do this. You're not going to do the Horus Heresy. You need to go through me. You're not going to do it. I'm going to pull you back from the brink. And that's when Lorgar makes the choice. Says, all right, I'm going through you then. And does it. Right? And it breaks him mentally. It breaks him mentally to the point that later on, he says, I haven't sacrificed my best friend for nothing. And he tries to take over the Horus Heresy for himself. And obviously fails in that. So, no Primarchs tend to not just lamely disappear in my setting. Corvus Corax gets the death he deserves. By that, I don't mean I don't like him. No. I mean he dies a hero. He dies like the little guy. Like he's the champion of the little guy. He dies in that way to stop the Horus Heresy from happening. That's where we are, right? That's where we are. Argel Tal also follows his Primarch and is possessed in a similar way in this setting as in the first Heretic book. He becomes the Primarch's shadow, but seeks a way to be rid of the demon within him and shares this with Lorgar. In the end, it turns out the faith of Lorgar in his own cause is so powerful he can exorcise demons with coordinated effort at will, and he does this with Argel Tal. The warp obeys Lorgar. It has chosen him, and as the galaxy burns, he starts to lose his sense of purpose as his legion falls to demonic corruption around him, right? He starts to think, this is just a petty game, I don't want to be involved in this anymore. In 40K, he has abandoned his legion completely and travels with Argel Tal, his loyal shadow, who is still alive, after Tal was exorcised of his demon, to round up word-bearers who wish to find something more that is not serving the Chaos Gods. And there are word-bearers like that even in the 30k setting. Those are the people that Lorgar is going after to pull to his side, right? He starts forming a warband, and then an army, and then a chapter, and then eventually a legion of zealots. Zealots who are looking for something more. They're on a big pilgrimage across the galaxy, just like they did in the Horus Heresy, right? They're here to find something more. On his return to the Imperium, he finds that the Emperor is now literally a god, and all his dreams came true. He literally leaves the Eye of Terror and immediately comes in his pants. He's like, oh my god, this is wonderful. Look at all of this. This is wonderful. I told you I was right. 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 And he literally, he's literally doing a circular dance, right? He's literally doing that. Told you I was right. Ha 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 ha. Like, suck on it, fucking suck on it. You know, he's literally doing all that. Of course, not literally, but like in his own Primarch way, he's just like dancing in a circle, like, haha, yes, I was right all along, right? He becomes a traveling demagogue who is psychically shrouded as a preacher of the Emperor, right? He doesn't want people to see who he really is. He's now obviously far more powerful than he was after 10,000 years of practice. And he's almost Emperor level now. Like he's not there or anywhere near there really, but like in terms of who the Emperor's going to be when he comes back as the Returned, he's kind of nearly there. He's nearly on that level. He's able to shroud himself so people see what he wants them to see, essentially, you know, as one of the Emperor's innate powers. He's the only Primarch who can do this because he's the true son of the Emperor. He's truly the Emperor's son. He got this directly from his father, this ability to make people, at least now he's come into his full power, see exactly what he wants them to see, okay? And he's now a preacher of the Emperor. I would actually have Sebastian Thor and all of these other saints of the Emperor actually be Lorgar, right? It's hinted in the setting that Lorgar came back ages ago, like literally 5,000 years ago. Lorgar came back, And he's there just being... He's living as the Emperor did once on Terra. He's pushing the Imperium down the lines that he wants by shrouding himself as these saints and turning up and being like, we shall fight for the Emperor, we shall... And he wins loads of wars for the Imperium because he sees the way the Imperium is. The age of the ecclesiarchy has already happened, so it's already very religious, and Lorgar leans into that and pushes the Imperium further and further and further down that road from the shadows, right? Okay. Alright, so the Emperor comes to Lorgar in his dreams as a benevolent god. So Lorgar doesn't see himself as doing this in a selfish way. He's doing this because he thinks he's helping people, because he thinks the Emperor is talking to him in his dreams. But of course, this god turns out to be Tzeentch, playing games with him and seeding worlds with his influence in the wake of Lorgar being there, right? And this leads to Magnus coming back. This leads to the return of Magnus and a big conflict that happens, you know, in 9th edition and 8th edition, where Magnus comes back. Magnus and Lorgar eventually fight, which reveals Lorgar's existence to the galaxy, right? It's now revealed that Lorgar's here. Everyone's like, oh my god, there's fucking Lorgar. What's happening? Lorgar continues travelling with a very large band of ecclesiastical mercenaries and is known as the Penitent Sinner, as he seeks the way to get to the Emperor on Terra and ask him for his forgiveness. Right? So, again, Lorgar is a good guy. Deep down, he's a good guy. He wants to help people. He wants other people to live their dreams. So he comes in and he's look, I want to go stand before my father. I want to ask him for forgiveness and for guidance. I need him to tell me what he wants me to do. He's a god now. He needs to come and speak to me, damn it. Speak to me. Like, he's going more and more mad as he's going along. I'm your son. Like, I'm literally your son. Why are you talking to Guilliman? He's a nerd. Speak to me. I'm your son. Right? Like, he gets driven further and further and further into that. For fuck's sake, why are you speaking to him? He has a toilet seat as a sigil. Speak to me. Right? He's just losing it, right? Okay. He understands now that everything he did and went through was a test of the Emperor to get the Emperor to shed his mortal skin and become the god he was always meant to be. So even the Horus Heresy, Lorgar fully believes now, in his denial, right, that the Horus Heresy was all the Emperor's plan originally, because he was always meant to be a god, and he needed Lorgar to instigate it all. He does all this mental gymnastics to absolve himself of guilt for what's been going on. Right, he's starting to lose it. He's starting to lose his grip on reality. The true tragedy is that Lorgar, his main character flaw, is that he keeps looking for somebody to serve and to define other people's dreams, rather than looking out after himself and finding his own destiny. The Emperor understands this, and on his eventual return, because remember, the Emperor in our setting returns as a guy called The Returned, right? He's now back again, right? I would have him tell Lorgar this face to face. He tells Lorgar, son, you need to find your own way. You can't live in my shadow. I am now a god, yes, true, but this was not of your doing. You had nothing to do with this. And if you did, it was by accident. You need to go out and find your own way. He casts Lorgar out again. Not out of anger, but out of a weird kindness, because, again, Lorgar is his only true son. The other Primarchs are tools. Lorgar is his son. That's why he treats him like a sergeant major treats, you know, a soldier. He wants him to grow. He wants him to get better. And he says, you're not going to get better in my shadow trying to be me. Go. I cast you out. Go, find your own purpose in the world, right? Find your own self. This is the only kindness he shows any Primarchs, because the returned Emperor is not a nice guy in my setting, right? He's a god. He doesn't care, right? But he does care about Lorgar, because it's his son. This breaks Lorgar completely, who once again has his mind shattered. He's rejected the Chaos Gods, he's rejected the Emperor, and he's come back to the Emperor only to be rejected in turn again. Instead, he turns on all gods. He declares them as nothing more than on uncaring entities that are not worthy of following. He now knows the Emperor and the Chaos Gods are fallible. They're not gods to him. He's done. He's done. He leaves, and he creates an army of desperados and the spurned, renegade Space Marine chapters, and assassins. His main goal is to rid the galaxy of all traces of the Chaos Gods and the Emperor. That includes the Primarchs and Space Marines. He wants to wipe the slate clean. He wants to wipe the face of the galaxy clean and make the war calm again so that new life can spring forth and humanity can finally rule the stars. In irony, he kind of becomes an avatar of the god Malal in a way. Like, he wants to cast everything down and bring everything to heel and say, no, we're starting again. We're starting again. Right? He wants to burn everything down, not in hatred, but in necessity. You may think that this leads to Lorgar liking the Necrons and the Tyranids, but he also sees them as a disease, because he wants humanity to define its own fate away from gods and away from faith and away from war. He has become he has become the Emperor before the Great Crusade. It's happening again, all over again. The cycle is beginning again. Because if you want to know what the Emperor was like when he was growing up on Terra, this is what he was like. He's going through exactly the same journey. And this may even be a plan of the Emperor. He may be like, I need a contingency plan, so I'm sending Lorgar out there to essentially become me in case I actually die. And we start the old plan all over again. I got you, bitch. We've gone full circle, I've got you. Right? It all links in together. The cycle is beginning again. He has become the Emperor before the Great Crusade. They're now literally the same person. In psychology, in personality. The only thing that makes Lorgar more powerful is that he has all of this experience to draw upon. He knows what the Chaos Gods are capable of. He's not going to underestimate them, right? He even gets a hold of Fabius Bile, and the two begin a new Primarch project based on Lorgar's gene seed and incredible psychic power. Lorgar seeks to restart the entire setting in his own image. That's his motivation. He wants to restart the entire 40K setting in his own image. He's literally me, in a way. You know what I mean? He's literally a writer. He wants to restart the entire 40K setting in his own image. So he takes in the word bearers that don't want to be with the Chaos Gods anymore. He gets rid of their demons, because he can do that, right? And he starts to remake the setting in his own image. Now, is he going to succeed? Of course he's not. Of course he's not going to succeed. But it's still cool to have him in the galaxy trying to pull those things forwards and into where we're going to go, right? Because we never want 40K to end. We never want the setting to just end. So having Lorgar there, if you really want to hit the restart button and do an end times, Lorgar would be the perfect seed from which to grow the next 40K setting. I'm not saying you should do that, you shouldn't, but the option's there. And it makes people think, oh my god, what if they did that? What if they did this? What if they did that? Right? It makes people think of those things, and that's incredibly important. We now call Lorgar the King Uncrowned. That's the title that he takes for himself, the King Uncrowned. What do you guys think? Am I mad? Are my ideas just bonkers? I know that one was a bit of a long one. That's simply because there are lots of good things and bad things about the word bearers, but they're all very out there and very wishy-washy, and I wanted to give you something more concrete, and I want to give Lorgar some more concrete methods and things that he wants to do going forwards. I also wanted to give him a little bit of love and actually make him what he should be, and that is a tragic hero in the 40K setting. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. I think I may have gone a bit too far this time, but we'll see. Love you all a long time. I'll speak to you tomorrow for some more Hobby Nightmares on Friday. Have a wonderful rest of your day. See you soon. Have a good one.